Pescuma, Ishmisha Lindsey Brishin, Kia ora ko Lindsey Brishin tōku ingoa. Hi everyone, welcome to the Time to Thrive, Thriving Through Redundancy community. I'm Lindsey Brishin from Turas and it's really great to have you on board. I've created this community because I know that when you face redundancy, it can be a really isolating time and you actually can feel quite alone. So I want to create a safe space where people can come together and we can share some tips and learnings on how to actually manage this time. This is going to be a weekly series, so look out for it in the Time to Thrive group. I'm going to be focusing on 4 key topics. The first one is how to manage your emotions. The second one is how to take stock and create a plan so that you don't stay frozen in the moment. The third one is about how to rebuild your self-belief and confidence. And finally, the fourth one is about how sometimes redundancy can have a silver lining and be a gift. Before we start, there's a fact that I want to share with you that I find has been really helpful for me. It took me a while to realize this fact, but it's really important. Redundancy doesn't mean you're redundant. It just means your role is. And it did take me a while to realize this fact, but I can tell you it's true. Having spent 26 years as a change agent in marketing, comms and business, it's been part of my life all of that time. I've led 6 restructures. I've led restructures where I've been impacted, and I've also gone through 3 redundancies. And in the beginning, it was really hard not to take it really personally and not to think it was about my own incompetence. But over the years, I've learned that redundancy really is a business decision. And my rational head has been trying to come to terms with that fact. So I do want to share it with you because it is really important to remember that. Redundancy doesn't mean you're redundant. It just means your role is. So today I want to focus on how to manage those emotions that are swirling around inside and maybe causing you to trigger every day. So every day can be a bit tiring. Secondly, I want to look at, well, how do you rewrite those negative stories you might be telling yourself and how you can move forward with confidence. So let's start with recognizing and managing your emotions, taking control on the inside. So we've got 2 worlds or 2 homes, if you like, our external world and our internal world. Our external world can often be very swirly and out of our control, but it does shake our foundations. It can make us change how we think about ourselves. It can introduce fears into our mind. It can create stories that are holding us back. And that can be really disempowering. It can almost stop us in our tracks. And our inner home is really, really important because, like our external home or a physical home that gives us safety and security, our inner home, our emotional home, keeps us grounded and calm when everything else around us is kind of going to hell, to be honest. So let's talk about how do you manage and recognize your emotions. So the first thing is we are all human. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that you're not going to feel those emotions. But my first tip is move from feeling to fact. And what I mean by that is, yes, recognize your emotions, the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the frustration, but don't linger there because it is actually wasted time. It just kind of keeps you frozen in that swirl of feeling. It doesn't help you move forward in any way. So my tip is acknowledge your emotion, but then move to the facts. Put your logical hat on and look at the facts of the stories that you're telling yourself regarding your redundancy situation. I've got 4 in my last redundancy. So I was made redundant from a really big GM role in a public sector agency. And here was the 4 stories that I was telling myself. The first one was, it's all about me. That's the feeling. It's all about me. The facts that I looked at were, well, okay, is it really all about me? So I looked at the rationale for the decision for my redundancy. Did it align to where the business was trying to go? Did it make sense? Yes, it did. So it wasn't necessarily just about me, it was about the business change. And then secondly, I looked at, well, were there other people affected by the change for the same reason, for the same rationale? Yes, there were. So for me, I looked at those two facts, and that sort of refuted my feeling about, well, it's only about me. So I could cross that one off the list. The second one was, I'm not good enough. This is a hard one because it's really hard not to take it personally. But again, I looked at the facts. So did I have a history of bad performance where there are some red flags in recent months where my performance had been, discussed? No. Did I have any relationship issues that I felt were maybe going to be part of a performance review or had been mentioned? No. So again, those two facts kind of refuted my feeling about, well, I'm not good enough, and almost made me more confident about the fact that I was good enough and my competencies in what I was doing were solid. The third story I told myself was, it's not fair. And this is a really hard one because naturally you feel an injustice about the situation. But I think when we look at the facts, we all know logically that businesses face this decision all the time now. Our world has a ever-evolving landscape where businesses have to work smarter and they are constantly under financial scrutiny. So we know logically that is not necessarily true and it's more a business decision. The way I sort of swallowed that bitter pill, if you like, was to look at the way the organization had led the process. Did it feel like it had been fair and had been led with integrity? And if the answer to that was yes, then that helped me reduce that feeling around, or that story around, it's not fair. And then my final story I was telling myself was it's predetermined. So there's no point in me giving feedback, and it's all been predetermined and arranged. The way I looked at that was look at the facts around the final decision document. Did it reflect changes? Did it reflect feedback that had been given? Yes or no? Yes, in my case. Did the document give me reasons for why some feedback had not been taken on board, and did they make sense in line with the rationale of the business and where it was going? Yes. So some changes had been taken on board. So in some respects, I felt that it wasn't predetermined. And so I could challenge again that feeling or that story I was telling myself. So those were four things I was telling myself and how I used the facts of the situation to help me refute the feelings. And in doing that, that sort of it did move me from the anger and the hurt and the kind of frozen feeling to going, actually, okay, I can move forward feeling better about myself and tackle what I'm going to do next, which I'm going to cover in next week's session. So that's the first tip, fact to feeling. The second tip I want to share is renovate your emotional home. So we talked about earlier about the fact that your emotional home is how you stay grounded and calm when all around you is really going a bit mad. And your emotional home is formed in the first 7 years of your life. It forms your emotional patterns, it forms how you react to things, it forms the stories that you tell yourself. But they're not permanent. You can change them. So think about how you make your day-to-day decisions, how you decide about where to focus your energy. Where you decide to focus your energy has meaning for you, so it has a feeling associated with it, it has an emotion associated with it. So how you choose to react when something's thrown at you around that decisions you've made is how you manage your emotional home. So you can either react really, like I know I did at points, there were certain triggers that came in. I'd made a decision to do something in my day and something happened in the broader change space, like a timeline was moved or something was communicated. And how I reacted in that moment depended how calm my inner home was. Sometimes it wasn't calm. So again, I would sort of move off what I was focusing on in terms of my workplace and what I was trying to achieve. And I would deviate off and be angry and frustrated for half an hour. Another time, I was much calmer because I'd done my fact to feeling exercise, if you like, and I didn't deviate off from what I was achieving. And actually, that meant that I was more productive that day. I didn't just spike up and down emotionally all day and come to the end of my day and go, oh, what did I achieve? I'm emotionally tired, etc. So it helps you keep your concentration and keep you focused. So how do you do it? This is a harder exercise to do, and I would suggest that you do it in a time when you're in an environment that's calmer and feels safer and more open for you. But what I'd suggest to do is just tune into your emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and look at them. Pick the emotions that are happening the most for you. Is it anger? Is it hurt? Is it sadness? Is it feeling incompetent? What are those emotions that are happening a lot? Or are there some really good emotions happening? Like, no, I feel confident. I feel happy. I know what I'm doing. I have a plan. These are different emotions. Some are disempowering, like the sadness and the frustration, the anger, and some are empowering, which is I'm confident, I know what I'm doing, I have a plan. So look at the ones that are happening the most for you. Then I want you to pick one to two emotions that are empowering, that will put you back in the driver's seat, that you want to feel every day. So for me, when I was going through my redundancy, the two I picked were confidence in myself and what I was doing and how I was leading my team through change. And the second one was joy. And that might sound a bit strange to you in terms of a redundancy situation, but I wanted to feel joy every day, joy in what I was there to do, irrespective of the redundancy situation, and focus on that and get joy and feel fulfilled. So I moved from all the anger, all the frustration to that, and I put it in the driver's seat. That's what I focused on every day while I was going through the redundancy situation. These are two tips. So let's recap. How do you manage your emotions? How do you recognize them and move forward? Rewrite your negative stories so that your emotional home makes you feel better about yourself and fuels your confidence. Move from feeling, renovate your emotional home. Get your emotional home much more stable so that you can move from panic to plan, you can move from frozen to moving forward. That's the most critical first step when you face restructure and redundancy. And that's what I've learned in my 26 years. I really hope that is helpful for you. If you want to talk to me a bit more about it or share that with any thoughts with the group, please go into Time to Thrive and have a look at other comments. Next week, I'm going to be talking about, okay, now that we feel more grounded emotionally and our days are not picking up and down, how do we take stock and create a plan that is not rash, that you'll regret, but actually helps you reduce your anxiety over the timeline and what you're going to do about it. That's at 12:30 next Tuesday. I really hope you can join me. Do feel free to share comments about this particular video, and if it's been helpful, most importantly, and if it's made you feel less alone. It's your journey. Travel well with Turas. Kia kaha.